Well, good morning, everybody. Oh, we already got bots in the chat. Gorv says, buy followers, primes, and viewers on mystorm.store. No, thank you. No, thank you. We're going to keep it real. No bots. I'm going to report this motherfucker. Hey, good. Welcome to another episode of, oh, yeah, we're going to spam, scams, or bots. Scam and bots. I can't do both. Anyway. Welcome. Sorry. Yep. I don't tolerate this bullshit. But also, there's no stopping. You get the phone calls. There's tons of bots calling all the time. I get texts all the time, emails. Now they're in our fucking Twitch stream, but it is what it is, baby. So, good morning. Welcome to Book Club with Kate and Kelly, where I read books and I report bots, and then I talk about the books on the podcast to help keep myself accountable. I'm trying to optimize my health, wealth, wisdom, and peace. And hopefully, I can help you do the same as well. That's why I like to stream it and make a podcast. And then, if you like the podcast, but maybe an hour and a half is too long for you, well, you're in luck because I'm doing 15-minute clips of the same podcast or of the same books under the podcast called Here's the Point with Kate and Kelly, and that's available on my Instagram as well. I've struggled to upload a couple of videos. I don't know why they're not uploading, but I'm going to figure that out today. And other than that, go check out my blog. I haven't been writing at all, but it's there. I have some good pieces from the past. I keep telling you I'm going to keep writing, but you know what? One of these days I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be done with this storage unit project that I'm working on this week, so I'll be able, I'll have a lot more time at my disposal. I'm giving up, like 10 hours of my day to clean storage units. It's been a bitch, but it is what it is. Yeah. Been cruising through books, which is awesome because, I'm back I'm on the front lines again cleaning, so I got I got a lot of free time with headphones. So, well, it's not free time, but it's time with my headphones. So, yeah, that's where we're at. It's rainy today. It's June 20th. I got my brother. He's leaving on a Mormon mission in 9 days, next Wednesday. He got set apart last night to be a missionary, so now he's at home doing MTC practice stuff. They do their whole missionary training. They start their missionary training at home online now, which is wild. Back in my time, we just got dropped off at the MTC in Provo or at the airport and said sayonara. But he's got a week and a half of training at home before he gets started, which will be awesome. I don't know how much training can you do from home for 9 days by yourself? I don't know. But anyway, he gave his farewell talk yesterday. Did a great job. We're all really proud of him. Yeah, man. I'm cleaning storage units, and my buddy's cleaning carpets. The white glove is rocking and rolling. I got another friend on the back end taking care of phone calls. She's killing it. Life's good. Life's very good. I kind of fell off the wagon a little last week. Just, putting in a lot of hours cleaning and getting to bed way too late. I was having a hard time getting up and cleaning and exercising. And it's an excuse, and it's a shitty excuse, and it's my excuse. And so I missed a few days at the gym and at yoga. I hate, I want to prioritize those things. That's why, that's what I get out of all of these books that I'm reading is prioritizing what matters the most to me. And what's so hard is work is a necessity to survive. Everybody needs to work to live, to make money, and to pay the bills with the money that they make. And what I'm learning with these books is if you want, the happiest people are spending time doing what gives them purpose, what is meaningful to them. And the happiest people are making money doing those things, I'm guessing. So they don't have to do a full-time job and do what they love. They can do what they love and make enough money to make ends meet. Doing like their hobby or their passion, whatever it is. And I'm pretty close to getting there. I'm not rich. I'm not going to be rich by any means, but I'm working really hard on systemizing my business so I can remove myself from the daily labor to focus on things that I am passionate about, like this podcast and and still not, but still having income, right? That's the point. That's where the wealth side of things comes from. To make enough money to take care of my business, without having to show up for all of the daily work. It usually just means you hire out the responsibility, you create a plan so someone else can do the work for you, and therefore you make less money because you pay the people to do that, and that's just fine because it's not about the money, it's about the time. Just like what's her face said. What was her name? I still have her book from last week. Vicki Robin, just like Vicki Robin said 2 weeks ago. Uh, Time is our life energy, how we spend our life energy. That's what that is our most valuable resource is our time, and how we live our life is well, we spend our time, we trade our time for money when we go to work. So is the way you spend your time meaningful, or is it just for the paycheck? There's better ways to make ends meet. I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent. But anyway, yeah, business is good. Life is good. It's rainy, but it's beautiful. It was super stormy over the weekend, but we still had a great weekend. Played a lot of pickleball. Did some mountain biking. Hung out with family a ton, with some friends. Took some naps. Finished Ozark. Had a great ass weekend. And now we're here for the podcast. And this last week we read a book that I realized before I got started I forgot to buy it. I don't have the physical copy with me today, but I have a picture of the audiobook, and it's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, I don't have the physical copy. Sorry. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, the story of success. Hugely popular for a lot of years. Since I don't have the physical copy, I'm going to have to Google this. I'm going to see, when was Outliers published? 2008. Wow, 14 years old. November 2008. Still revolutionary. And I know Malcolm Gladwell has written other books since, but I don't even know if this is the most popular. It's one I'm most familiar with. On Wikipedia, he was a good-looking dude. He's got super curly hair. Let's see, what other books has he read, or has he written rather? He's done a book called The Tipping Point, Blink: The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. That was 2000 to 2005. Outliers was 2008. 2009, he wrote What the Dog Saw and Other Adventures. He wrote David and Goliath, Underdogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants, 2013. 2019, Talking to Strangers, What We Should Know About the People We Don't Know. This is all awesome. And 2021, The Bomber Mafia, A Dream, A Temptation, and The Longest Night of the Second World War. Oh, that would be awesome to listen to. His book was awesome. This book was awesome. It was short-ish. It was like 7.5 hours, which is actually a solid amount of time, because the longest ones we've done, I think, were like 19 hours, and that's very long. Let's see. Let's get a little bit of who Gladwell is. The top of his Wikipedia says, born in 1963, an English-born Canadian journalist, author, and public speaker. He has been a staff writer for The New Yorker since 1996. He's published 7 books that I just read. His first 5 books were on the New York Times bestseller list. He's also the host of the podcast Revisionist History. Gladwell's writings often deal with the unexpected implications of research in the social sciences, like sociology and psychology, and make frequent and extended use of academic work. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good little summary. I wish I knew more about what kind of education he has. I wonder if I could find. Let's see. Here's his career on Wikipedia. He started Gladwell. Okay. At 87, he began covering business and science for the Washington Post, where he worked till 96. In a personal elucidation, I know how to say that, but I don't know if I know what that means. So I'm going to search elucidation, explanation that makes something clear. His personal elucidation of the 10,000 hour rule he popularized in Outliers. Gladwell notes, I was a basket case at the beginning, and I felt like an expert at the end. It took 10 years, exactly that long. Whoa, cool. Well, that's what we're reading. Yeah, and I didn't know he coined the 10,000 hour rule. That's awesome. Yeah, so doesn't look like he went to university. He just has been writing and working for uh, Insight on the News, The American Spectator, The New Yorker, Washington Post. He's just a massive writer. He's a great writer. He also narrated his book, and I enjoyed his voice. It was unique and soothing. Okay, well, let's talk about Outliers then. I got all my books stacked right here. Gotta find my notes. Okay, Outliers. So this book is broken down into 2 parts, not 3. So he's already got my attention. In the introduction, Gladwell's intention with this book is to analyze success in a completely different way, like what happened with health in Rosetta. Most of the book is anecdotal, tells lots of stories, and then uses the stories as examples for his theory. And it is mostly, I think this book is it's a theory. I don't know if he's proving anything, but he's changing. He's analyzing success in a completely different way. So I think that's why it's so popular, and because I think it holds its weight too. It's really fascinating. And I did read this. I realized I did read this book a few years ago, but I don't remember most of it. There were a few parts that were familiar. I didn't realize I bought it on my Amazon Books account a lot of years ago. So this was a good read through. This is a good go again. So, all right. Success in a completely different way. Part 1. Well, so before what happened with health in Rosetta, I'm not going to remember all of his stories perfectly, but there was a city, I think in New York, called Rosetta, and it was an Italian culture, an Italian city, a lot of Italian immigrants, and they had exceptional health, and I'm trying to remember why. Like, they had the lowest rate of cardiovascular disease and death from cancer and things that are normally really high across the United States. But they weren't like the healthiest people. They weren't, they weren't ones that exercised every day and ate really well all the time. They smoked a lot. But so I think the conclusion was their social life in Rosetta was they were outliers in their social life. They were incredibly close-knit community, and which I think was the conclusion. That's why their health was so spectacular, or was an outlier. They were on average way healthier than most Americans, even though they didn't follow standard guidelines for health, like exercise and a clean diet. So that's the point of this book. There was a lot of anecdotes. So I didn't take a ton of notes because it was mostly really entertaining stories that he would tell. But the notes I did take, I think, are very rich. So part 1 is called Opportunity. Good morning. Here's some coffee. I got some new collagen. My girlfriend got some collagen for the coffee, and it's really tasty. It's a cold brew flavored collagen. And so it makes the coffee taste stronger, but it's just good for you. It's just extra good stuff for you. Plus, I told you I got really sick a couple months ago with what I thought was E. coli or something, and my bowels have been fucked up ever since. So, but they're getting better. And you know what? Fuck it. I just thought I should stop drinking coffee because coffee fucks up your gut. But fuck it, because I love coffee. It's terrible advice. All right, part 1, opportunity. Chapter 1, the Matthew effect. First note I said was the right way to analyze successful people is to look at where they're from, not who they are. If you have an idol, if you have someone that you highly respect who is an outlier or supreme in their field, like if you love LeBron James or you love Tiger Woods or you love Roger Federer or you love Elon Musk or, outlier successful people, just keep them in mind as we talk about all of this. Keep in mind their character and if you know anything about their history, because his argument is, and maybe I'll just I'll kind of summarize the book. I don't normally do this, but I think it's worthwhile. The argument that he makes, or the theory that he proposes, is successful people are not really successful because of any innate ability or any exceptional ability. They aren't outliers like LeBron James or Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a really a recurring example he uses in his book. Really successful people are successful because of two important factors. The first one, like he says right here, is he doesn't say it all the way. I'll just say it really fast. The 2 points are time and place, and then the second point is culture, your cultural legacy. So, I was actually even talking to my girlfriend this morning after the gym about successful people and trying to analyze this idea before I got set up for this podcast. And successful people, like you look at a LeBron James and you think that guy is so, me who doesn't know shit about basketball or LeBron James history, he's so good at basketball because of his genetics and his upbringing. He was able to dominate his competition and work his way to the top because he's tall and he's strong, and he works really hard, and he has earned his spot at the top, right? And in part that's true. But what the theory that Gladwell proposes is not that these successful people aren't at the top just because of their ability or their genes or inherited talent. They're at the top because of their circumstance, mostly because of their when they were born, who they were born to, and their cultural legacy. Steez, wait a minute. This is a Valorant. Shit, I can fix that, right? Thanks for the heads up, because I like to keep it accurate, because I think some people find me in the books or like the podcast area. So I'm going to fix that really fast. And good morning. If I go to my live, this is not Valorant. So I'm going to go to my channel, stream manager, edit, not Valorant, podcast, talk shows and podcast. Done. All right. Thank you. Good morning, No Cat. My dad listened to one of your episodes and really liked it. Oh, Jesse. Yes. If you're still listening, Jesse, you know how much I respect you and appreciate you, and still devastated about how we're not going to Lake Powell in a week, or in like 5 days. But no matter. I'm happy for you, and it sounds like you're going to be having a lot of puppies really soon. So I hope that all works out really well for you. We're talking about outliers. So Gladwell's theory is these people who are ultra successful are mostly because of time and place, who they're born to, where they're born, and then their cultural legacy. So this first part is time and place. And the example he uses, the story that he tells, is about Canadian hockey. And I don't know shit about hockey either, or really about sociology, but like his biography says, he spent most of his work focuses right here. Gladwell's writing often deals with the unexpected implications of research in the social sciences like sociology and psychology, and make frequent and extended use of academic work. So he studies this area, this field, and notices that he didn't notice this, but he's analyzing people who did notice. Ultra successful hockey players are not victims, but they are proponent, or not even proponent, but they're the result of time and place. Because in Canada, back, I don't know if it's still this way, but at least 20 years ago when this research was done, Canada's premier child hockey league, their super gifted kid hockey league, is done in their age cutoff is January 1. So kids born, it's annually. So you're grouped by year. So the research, the results, or the things that these people found, is that the ultra successful hockey players are overwhelmingly born early in the year, January, February, and March. And this is because kids born in January of a certain year are at a significant physical advantage to kids born later in the same year, October, November, December. So you put kids that are almost a year apart in age together in a league. The kids who are younger are going to struggle because they haven't developed as much as the kids who are older. And then this propagates a whole bunch of other factors, like these kids that are born earlier in the year, because they have an advantage over the kids. A few things happen, like they receive special treatment from coaches and training and things like this. They seem gifted or special, so they receive extra training. Then they become even better than the kids who were born later in the year, and then their confidence is extremely boosted. There's this whole string of consequences that occurs for these kids who are born early in the year versus kids that are born later in the year. Even for kids that are born with maybe a little bit of with special genes, they even if they have special genes, these kids who are late, it's just the data is overwhelming that the kids who are born early in the year have a higher chance of success in hockey and then making it to the pros and being, exceptional hockey players, regardless of their innate talent. They get treated special because of their size against other kids that are in the same category but are almost a year younger than them. Am I making sense? He explains it really well. I mean, it's his whole book. So this is an example of success being a result of time and place rather than success as just innate talent. And I want to talk about talent too a little, but I want to get through his major points. I said success is the result of a cumulative advantage. Kids born right after the cutoff date of their sport I just explained this. They have a significant advantage against others and therefore receive special treatment later in life. Quote, this is the scripture. This is why it's called the Matthew effect. It's because it's based off the scripture out of the Bible. He who hath shall be given more in abundance. He who hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. I may not have even gotten that right. I'm going to find the right scripture. He who hath shall be given. Let's see if I got that scripture right. Here's the New World Translation. Matthew 25:29. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. Yeah, I think I got it right. So it's called the Matthew effect because regardless of your special ability, these kids that are born earlier in the year in these hockey leagues they're at an advantage physically against their competitors born later in the year, and receive special treatment from coaches and staff and training and scouts, and are they are given more. And these kids who are born later in life, later in the year, just consequently receive less training, less attention, less whatever help from their coaches and training and staff and whatever. Just because they are viewed differently, because they are being beat up by these kids who haven't. All right, I've made my point. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2, the 10,000 hour rule. So yeah, I guess Gladwell coined this 10,000 hour principle. I thought he was anyway. If you're not familiar with the 10,000 hour rule, it's a theory that it takes 10,000 hours of practice in any field to become a master at that thing. So if you want to be a master golfer, it takes 10,000 hours of practice and of performance golfing to be a master golfer. Same with playing the guitar, the piano. Same with playing video games. Same with social interactions. You want to be a debater. It takes 10,000 hours of debating to be a master debater. Master debater. Not masturbator. Master debater. I did not intentionally come up with that joke. That just happened. That's just what happens sometimes. You come up with good material on the fly. So that's the 10,000 hour rule. And here he talks about Bill Gates and a guy named Bill Joy. And I am unfamiliar with Bill Joy, but from what I understand, Bill Joy is the guy that wrote the code or the software or whatever that we use for the internet. Bill Joy basically created the internet. And him and Bill Gates are, and if you don't know who Bill Gates is, he's the guy he's the multi-billionaire who's buying all the farmland in America and making us go vegan. He's the guy that you either really, really like or really, really dislike because of whatever conspiracies you agree with or disagree with or believe and don't believe in, whatever. But 60 years ago, Bill Gates was a guy who created the idea of the personal computer. He created Microsoft. And you can look at a guy like Bill Gates 60 years ago and say he was, or maybe it was more like 50 or 40 years ago. I don't really remember. But you could say, oh, this guy, he was born to program. He was born to be a programmer and to code and to create this because he's so smart and has all of this ability, and he's just whatever. But the truth is, and Steve Jobs is another example, but his argument isn't as strong as Bill Gates. Bill Gates is he's an outlier because, if I remember his story correct, it was time and place for Bill Gates. He was going to school in high school in California, and you remember, computers were the size of a house or a room, just a big machinery. Well, Bill Gates' high school was one of the first high schools to get a computer for the students to work on, but it was something. It was able to work on its own without a. So like back in the day, if you wanted to run a program, you'd have to write the script on something, and then a guy would have to enter the script into the computer. But Bill Gates was one of the first computers where it could automatically, you could just enter it to the computer, and it would process the code or whatever. I have no idea how a computer works. See, I'm so stupid. But the point is, Bill Gates was granted basically unlimited access to this computer in high school and was able to code for hours and hours and hours on end. And the argument is, the truth is, there was probably no other person, at least no other high schooler on the planet that had access to the same stuff that he did and was able to work on it as much as he did. So that after 6 or 7 years of programming, he had reached this magic number of 10,000 hours of practice where he was a master programmer and was presented other opportunities to create a personal computer like Microsoft. Bill Joy had a similar story. These guys were granted extraordinary opportunities to practice what they uh, were good at and what they wanted to do. The Beatles are another example. I'm basically rereading the book to you. The Beatles back in the day, they call it what was the term that he used? It was like not atonement. What's the word they use? Back in the day, before the Beatles got really big, that they scored a gig with a guy in Hamburg, Germany, and most bands they tour and they play a 2-hour set every other day. So maybe they get 8 hours a week of performance, and the Beatles scored a gig in Hamburg, Germany, where they played, I think, for strip clubs and bars. They played 8 hours a day, every day, 8 hours. They played music and sang and wrote and improvised and explored 8 hours a day for months at a time. And his argument is the Beatles rose to success not because of some crazy talent that they have. In fact, you could argue that their talent was kind of, they didn't have a ton of talent. They were goofball dudes, but they were exceptional musicians because they had this magic. They were able to reach this magic number of 10,000 hours of practice and performance really, really fast, really quickly, at a young age. So the Beatles and Bill Gates, and later on he talks about Asian cultures. The reason why there's this stigma that they're so good at school and math is because in Asian cultures there's no summer break for Asian cultures. They work, they study, they go to school. It was like 280 days out of the year, or 300 days. I don't remember, but they don't have a summer break like Americans do in most European countries. They just study all the time, so they're really smart. Not just because of some innate ability, but because they're putting in an insane amount of reps. And that goes more. It's later in the book. It goes more into the cultural legacy. But here's the principle: 10,000 hours. If you want to be a master at anything, basically anybody can do it. And when your idol says, "If I can do it, then anybody can do it," they're not just saying that to like inspire you. I think they're being literal. They're saying, I rose to this level of success because of so much time and practice. A lot of these guys, well, not a lot. People aren't always born with some crazy innate ability. Some have a predisposition to be smarter or more athletic than others. But the point is, anybody can put in the time and the repetition. And the reason why people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and LeBron James are so special or why they're so advanced in their field is because early on in their life, in their career, they were presented an extraordinary amount of opportunity to practice. Way more time at their disposal to practice than most people do. I go to the gym an hour a day. I do yoga. Like here's yoga is a good example. If I wanted to be a master yogi, I would need to put in 10,000 hours. And at my current rate, I put in 2, maybe 3 hours of yoga every week. And I'm going to pull out my calculator and I'm going to do this in my calculator. If I put in 3 hours if I go to 3 practice every week, it'll take me, let's see, how would I do that? So if I do 10,000 hours divided by 3 hours a week, it'll take me 30,000 weeks. To put in, that's not right. I might have added an extra 0. No, that's right. 10,000 hours divided by 3 hours a week is 3,300. There we go. I did my math wrong. 3,300 weeks divided by 52 weeks is 64 years to be a master yogi if I do it 3 hours a week. So I could do that, and by the time I'm 84 or 90. Because I'm 26. By the time I'm 90, I'll be a master yogi. And by the time I'm 60, I'll be really good, but I won't be at that 10,000 hour range. So the argument is these guys get so good at such a young age because of these super rare and unique opportunities to excel in their field or in their profession or in their hobby. So I could go start practicing yoga 3 hours a day, and if I did 3 hours a day for 7 days for 52 weeks, that's 1,000 hours a year. 1,000 hours a year. So it'll still take me 10 years of practicing 3 hours every day to get to this 10,000 hour mark. See, it's pretty bizarre. And I don't think again, if I do that for 5 years, I'm going to be an extraordinary yogi. 5 years, that'll be 5,000 hours. But this magic number of 10,000 is like, I think it's kind of a, well, he did do the math on the Beatles, if I remember. He did like, it was 8 hours of performing a day for the Beatles in Hamburg, and they did it for several months. Anyway, their number added up to about 10,000 hours of performance and practice. So, 10,000 hours. This is the magic number. Yeah, this is magic. Okay. All right. Well, hey, I don't do this very often, but I got a shit, so I'm gonna pause this, and I'm gonna be back in just a few. So, hey, sometimes nature calls. So hang in there, everybody. All right, I'm back. Okay, hey, the nature calls. The coffee was running right through me, and that's just how it goes sometimes. Oh yeah. So anyway, let's get back on track, huh? The 10,000 hour rule. It's not. It's his theory. This magical number. I think the principle is, if you could put in an extraordinary amount of practice early, you'll become better quicker. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 3 and 4 is about geniuses and people with exceptional ability or talent. So, um, um, really fast, just to explain this story, there's this guy named Chris Langan who is who I don't I he won a lot of game shows. He had a super high IQ, super smart guy, like extraordinarily smart guy, but failed to be like he didn't receive extraordinary success or um, notoriety or anything like that. He had exceptional talent, but he wasn't an, he's not like at the top of the food chain. Um, and his theory is Chris Langan, although he had this exceptional talent, he was born into a really shitty situation. And I took a quote from a short form blog. Not quote. I screenshotted what short form blog says about Chris Langan. Uh, Chris Langan's early life lacked the support and opportunity necessary to nurture and develop his gifts. Gladwell suggests that Christopher Langan's family experiences failed to instill in him the practical intelligence needed for success. He didn't know how to ask for what he wanted and get it. Although he had an exceptional amount of an exceptional ability, he didn't have the right environment to propel him or to learn, as Gladwell says, the social intelligence to get what he wants. He compares Langan with another guy whose name I didn't take down, who wow, what was his name? I could probably find it, but he was another guy with an exceptional IQ, and he was involved in the Manhattan Project to build the nuclear bomb in the Second World War. And but basically, he was born in. He had opportunities given to him as a kid. His family life was healthy, and he was able to get what he wants. And so he was able to participate in remarkable historical events like the Manhattan Project. I can't remember his name, Overhausen or something like that. I don't need to look it up. But the point is, so you look at someone with exceptional talent like Christopher Langan or like Bill Gates. Like imagine Bill Gates being the programming genius that he is, or that we view him as, but his success is, and Gladwell says he interviewed Bill Gates, and Gates agrees that if it weren't for the accessibility that he had to practice a shit ton, he wouldn't have been an exceptional programmer. He could just be another Joe Schmo Blow programmer or coder. He was given extraordinary opportunity because of time and place. There was this magic number of when people were born that led to opportunity, just like the Canadian hockey kids, programmers, and people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Bill Joy were all born in this magical time of history in 1955, 54, 56, 57-ish. They were young enough where they could get on board with this new technology or this new way of life, but they were also old enough they were young enough to be the first to do it, and old enough where they weren't stubborn enough to ignore it. So so this is his argument. It doesn't take exceptional talent or ability to be ultra successful. It takes time and place and culture. And this argument with Chris Langan is to show it's not about ability, it's about circumstance. And Christopher Langan's early life he tells some of his story. was shitty, abusive parents, no opportunity. Worked on a farm his whole life, and he just he never had the ability to ask for what he wants and gets it. Okay, that's the point. That's chapter 3 and 4. Chapter 5 is it's called The Three Lessons of Joe Flom. Again, this whole book is super anecdotal, and I'm trying to be really brief, but the stories are the reason why his theory works. Joe Flom was a Jewish lawyer in early American in like I think the early 1900s. Here are the 3 lessons of Joe Flom. If I remember right, I'm pretty sure I remember right. I took the notes. Lesson 1: Flom. Oh, and I should say, I don't know. I've never heard of Joe Flom before the book, but I guess he's a partner in one of the most successful law firms in the world, still operating. So, and here's why. It's not because Joe Flom was just an exceptional lawyer. It's because of these 3 reasons. Lesson 1: Joe Flom got lucky practicing a type of law that at first was unpopular and then became extremely unpopular. And what was the type of law? It was, I don't remember. Should have wrote it down. But he practiced a type of law that was extremely unpopular for a long time, became exceptional at it, and then it became popular, or people started seeking out his help for this type of law more, and he was the best at it because of this practice he put in before it was popular. That's lesson 1. That's 10,000 hour rule. And time and place. Lesson 2: demographics mean everything. When you were born, to whom, in what circumstance, city, etc. And lesson 3: your work must be fulfilling, and to Flom, it was. Quote, hard work is a prison sentence only if it doesn't have meaning. Close quote. Flom loved to be a lawyer, and he loved to practice this unpopular form of law until it became extremely popular. I'm gonna Google what kind of law does Joe Flom practice? Oh, nothing came up. I don't think I spelled his name right though. Flom, Flom. I don't know. What's this? The 3 lessons of Joe Flom. That's what I'm. I don't do this. I think I made my point. This person will have been born in a demographic trough, trough, Trough. I don't think I've ever seen that spelled. That's like what pigs eat out of, right? Demographic trough, so as to have had the best of New York's public schools in the easiest time in the job market. Yes. Joe Flom will be Jewish, of course, and so locked out of the old line downtown law firms on account of his antecedents. This person's parents will have done meaningful work in the garment business. Yes, this is true. There's more history on Joe Flom's parents became ultra wealthy because they revolutionized the garment industry. So he's a product of extreme wealth. Passing on to their children autonomy and complexity and the connection between effort and reward. A good school, although it doesn't have to be a great school, will have been attended. He need not have been the smartest in the class, only smart enough. Yeah. All right. Am I making my point? These ultra successful people are victims of time and place and circumstance. And I'm going to make my case about hard work here in a little bit, but I'm going to go through part 2, which is cultural legacy, and we'll talk. So part 2, legacy, or cultural legacy. Chapter 6, Harlan, Kentucky. The question for the second part of this book is whether the traditions and attitudes we inherit from our forebears plays a role in our success. I don't need to tell the story about Harlan, Kentucky, but basically everyone from the South, they get mad at each other a lot easier than people from the North, and it's because of our cultural legacy. So, yeah, the question we address is, we've talked about time and place. Now we're talking about traditions and attitudes that we inherit from our forebears, or our culture. Chapter 7 is the ethnic theory of plane crashes. Oh, I love this chapter. Really in-depth analysis on this phenomenon that happened in the 80s and 90s with South Korean air. For some reason, lots of South Korean airplanes were crashing all the time, like at an extraordinary rate. And planes, my TikTok algorithm knows I'm obsessed with plane crashes for some reason. I find them fascinating, especially the dialogue that happens with the pilot. Like I hear cockpit recordings of the cockpit before the plane crashes, and they're so eerie and disturbing. But I don't know, my TikTok algorithm feeds it to me. So I think that's why I like this chapter, because for some, planes are by far the safest mode of travel of any mode of travel. They're the safest. And in the 80s and 90s, an extraordinary amount of planes were crashing in South Korean air. And the argument is not because the pilots were incompetent, it was because of their culture, how they handled problems, how they communicated with each other, and how they showed reverence for their superiors, X, Y, and Z, whatever. And for some reason, pilots in South Korean air they were viewed they had like really high status, like they were like kings, they just had really high status, really revered amongst their peers. And yeah, so what happened with a lot of these plane crashes is it's usually a string of miscalculations by the humans, because planes are so intricately designed to avoid crashes. Most of the time, in fact, almost every time an accident happens, it's user error, it's human error. And in a lot of these cases that he analyzes, there are cultural barriers that prevent that prevent the teamwork that's necessary to overcome obstacles. So in the main example he uses, this pilot was awake for 24 hours, more than 24 hours, flying into Guam, and there is the plane engineer in the cockpit, and there is the co-pilot in the cockpit, and they both recognize that something's wrong with the radar. It was a particularly stormy day, and there was something wrong with the radar, or with the navigation. Anyway, the point, I don't need to explain it all. The point is, because South Korean culture didn't allow for these co-pilots to challenge the pilot, because it would have been disrespectful. And there were instances where co-pilots did challenge the pilots, and the pilots would berate? Ooh, they would slap the co-pilot, because it would be it was considered disrespectful to challenge the pilot's authority. So a lot of planes would crash because of a string of human errors that couldn't be corrected because of cultural implications. So the note I took from this chapter, when we ignore culture, planes crash. That's what Gladwell said. I say, talking about how cultures handle conversations differently, which led to several plane crashes. Yeah, okay, I'm just telling the story then. So that's the ethnic theory of plane crashes, because we are victims of culture, and when it comes to plane crashes, it requires challenging authority. It requires constructive teamwork to overcome obstacles, to correct errors, especially to correct plane malfunctions. But some culture doesn't allow for this kind of teamwork, this challenging. That's chapter 7. Chapter 8 is rice paddies and math tests. This is where he talks about Asian cultures. They're so good at math because of their hard work ethic, and the hard work ethic stems from their rice field history, because he says rice is one of the hardest crops to grow, and Asian countries are notorious for just vast systems of rice farms, and their cultures just instilled an incredible work ethic to work really hard in really intense conditions, and with no questions asked. their really hardworking culture, and that translates to their ability to study and learn complicated I don't know, things like math. A common thing, or a thing that stuck to me, was someone's ability to do math doesn't rest on their uh, inherent skill. This is the theme. It's on their ability to stick with the problem longer than others. And it was Einstein that said, I'm not good at what I do. I just know I could just stick with problems longer than anyone else." Something like that. Uh, a hard work ethic teaches you to endure hardship just for a long time. If you're able to run for, some people can only they can only mentally bear running for 5 minutes, but the longer you push yourself, the tougher the more resilient you become, and the longer you could stick with a hard task. So his theory is that Asian cultures are so good at math and school because their hard work ethic in the rice field has taught them to stick with difficult situations longer. So they stick through school longer. They stick with math problems longer, just with problems in general longer. And like I said earlier, they don't do summer breaks. They work through this. They work through the field. They work in the fields and in school, just all the time. And because really, you need to work to survive. And I don't know much about Asian history either, but I do believe that rice is their primary source of calories. So rice is gold basically in Asian culture. So you worked really hard to produce as much rice as possible, and it's one of the hardest crops to grow. It requires an insane amount of focus and consistency to produce a ton of rice, or to at least produce what you are planting. I said in my notes, Asians are better at math because of their ability to stick with problems longer. Rice is one of the hardest crops to grow, which translates to their ability to stick with problems. Okay, I'm just being repetitive now. So, yeah, Americans don't suck at math. We're not worse at math. We just have a culture. Americans, mostly just I should say the West, European countries and Americans and Canadians, we stick with problems shorter, or for less amount of time, and it's because it's stemmed from our culture. We're a little bit softer. We do summer breaks, and we advocate for lots of like mental health breaks and days, and we don't. I don't want to get too political, but I watched that Matthew Walsh documentary called "What Is a Woman," and he goes to a African country and asks them about gender identity things, and they just kind of ridicule Matt's questions asking about gender identity, and why did I take it down that route? What was I saying? What was I trying to say? Yeah, about Americans being soft. Yeah, these African cultures, they like, if they don't work hard. I think I was saying, if they don't work hard, they die. So that's their primary focus. But in America, we've developed a society, a culture, not just America, but in Western. I need to just keep it to the Western world. We've systemized our food and our shelter and our energy, so we don't have to work every day to, most of that is provided to us just as a given, and it's made us very soft, and so we focus on things that are not vital for our survival. Like, I don't want to say like gender identity, but that's because it's an important topic for a lot of people, and but it's not vital for survival. Food, water, and shelter are vital for survival, right? So once those have become not our focus, then we start focusing on things that, anyway, the point is, we've become softer than most of the world that's not as industrialized, like the Middle East, like the East, like third world countries, and it's just made the West world soft. So um, the consequence of that is we suck at focusing on things longer. We suck at working on math problems longer, and it's just the consequence of the culture. I got a little too political there, but that's the point. That's why Asian cultures are better at math than Western cultures. All right, that's chapter 8. Chapter 9, last chapter is Marita's bargain. America doesn't have a school problem. America has a summer vacation problem. Okay, so I combine these two ideas. Success is a gift. Those given opportunities and have strength and presence of mind to seize them, not our inherent skills. Okay, this is where I'll talk about effort expenditure versus time and place and culture. Because you take a kid like Bill Gates, who was presented extraordinary opportunity to excel at something and became the predominant figure for personal computers and programming and whatever. So if Bill Gates was given those opportunities and didn't seize them, probably somebody else would have later on. It was just Bill Gates that had the opportunity. The fact is, he worked really, really hard on it. Regardless of the opportunity he was given, he took the opportunity. So he's not just a success story because of his time and place and his culture. He's a success story because he seized the opportunity that was given him. Just like those Canadian hockey kids. If you were born in January, February, March in Canada, but you didn't play hockey, you were not a hockey success story. But if you did, your chances of success in hockey were far greater than those born later in the same year. So that's why I think like the Asian cultures that he talks about, they've instilled in them a really hard work ethic, a really strong work ethic, and which leads to their success in maths and academics, whatever other fields. And you can choose not to to seize opportunities, but that's really a result of the culture that you're brought up in. And yeah, like I'm saying, not every American is lazy and a piece of shit or in the Western world. I was actually this morning too, when I was talking to my girlfriend, she asked, why do some people take those opportunities and why do some neglect them? And I think that's an excellent question, and I don't really have the answer. I don't have a good opinion or a good answer to that. My idea or my first thought is usually people don't like to be miserable. So if you're born in shitty circumstances, usually you work your way out of them, and you go create good opportunity. But usually when you're born in shitty circumstances, your chances of becoming a result of shitty circumstances is far greater. Just like Bill Gates' chance of success was great because he had great opportunities presented. The opposite is probably true. And just like Christopher Langan's story, he had exceptional talent but had no opportunity to seize them. And I think people that are born in shitty circumstances and get out of it, they are presented good opportunity. Like if you're born into poverty and in a terrible culture or terrible society where like violence is rampant and there's no educational promotion, there's no social promotion. It's just violent and chaotic and drug influence and whatever. It's just really bad environment. And then you could be given an opportunity to come out of that. People that take those opportunities are usually the ones that excel and break that pattern. But it's all about the opportunity. It's not really about the skill that you have born, the inherent ability that you have. It's about the opportunities that you're given and whether you seize them or not. This is also why I love challenging my body and challenging my mind every day while things are good, is because shit almost shit inevitably hits the fan. And if you're not resilient or strong or capable when shit happens, then you're usually going to be stuck in the shit. It takes focus and perseverance and resilience to work your way out of a bad situation. And you have to, if you don't have good opportunities presented to you, you could try to make good opportunity or create opportunity or have the ability to recognize opportunity. So this is what, ultra successful people are ultra successful because of crazy opportunities presented to them, but they also had to be smart enough to recognize them. They had to have the social intelligence to work for what they needed or what they wanted, to ask for what they needed or wanted, and but then also courageous and resilient enough to work on them, to do them. The Beatles, they might have been given a chance to play music for 8 hours a day, but they could have said no, and then what would have happened if they never had the hours of practice that they got? Well, Bill Gates could have, he could have just decided to sleep in instead of programming like he did. They worked exceptionally hard, but it was because they were also given exceptional opportunity. So, there's tons of concept in this book I really appreciate. And it actually gives me a lot of hope. I think some people might get discouraged and think, well, if success is just a result of time and place and culture, then what's the point of work? I mean, like, if I'm going to be successful, then I have no control over it. I actually think you have tons of control over your success. I think the point is you get to choose to put in the work or not. You get to choose to look for opportunity or create opportunity, and then to take the opportunity to be really good at whatever it is you want. I play guitar, and I haven't played any music in quite a while, in a few months. But I know that if I put in 8 hours of practice every day, I would be an exceptional artist. And you know what the truth is? Right now, I put in 8 hours of cleaning in a day. I'm day by day becoming an exceptional cleaner. And that's the consequence of working a full-time job as a cleaner. That's just what it is. Is that my life? Is my life purpose to be the best cleaner out there? No, fuck no. That's not what that's at the end of the day. That's not what I want to be. That's not how I want to spend that's not the 10,000 hours I'm trying to work towards. The hours I want to put in, what I want are towards my health, my wealth, my wisdom, and my peace. Putting in tons of hours in those areas. Everyone has to work, like I said, or like everybody knows, you have to work to make money, to pay the bills, to stay alive. But you can be like Cameron Haynes, excellent example. We read his book Endure, excellent example of putting in an extraordinary amount of time towards his passion, which is bow hunting. And he's an outlier because although he puts in tons of hours running and shooting his bow and lifting weights and writing, he also works a full-time job. He works a full-time job. He puts in 8 hours of work every day and then puts in another 8 hours of running and training and shooting and whatever. So it's not, the only excuses that you have are the ones that you come up with. That's just, it's whatever reasons you're telling yourself you can't do something is your limitations. And I'm watching Peaky Blinders right now, and someone asked Tommy Shelby, what his limitations are, and he says, I have no limitations. And that's why Tommy Shelby's so good at what he does. It's because he doesn't put you can't put limitations on yourself if you want to excel. And we talk about balance, and we talk about being exceptional. It takes, you can either be average at everything and put in an hour of things a day, and it'll take 67 years to put in 10,000 hours, or you'd sacrifice a lot of other things to put 8 hours of practice into one thing, and then you become a pro at that thing way quicker. But then a lot of people just, if you listen to this podcast, you probably have a little bit of ambition or drive to do something or to accomplish something. That's why I fucking do this podcast, because I want to do that. I want to accomplish and achieve and excel and be exceptional. And it takes lots of fucking practice and reps and attention and time and sacrifice. But a lot of people don't care, and if you don't care, you probably don't listen to the podcast. You don't listen to my podcast, and you don't put effort into a lot of. You probably are a victim of social media or just media in general, and you take no initiative in your life. And again, I honestly, I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's like an immoral way to live. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people, have harder circumstances than others, and they don't have a ton of opportunity at their disposal, but they choose not to find opportunity. They choose not to work towards being strong and resilient. That's just their choice. And again, I don't think it's immoral or unethical. It's just everyone lives their life. Some people need to put in more work than others to meet average. Some people have a little bit more talent than others, like Chris Langan. But even the smartest or the most capable among us have to work really hard to be exceptional. Some people have to work harder than others, but the point is, it really boils down to hard work. Cameron Hanes says that he's nothing but average. He just knows how to work harder than everybody else. That's why he's such a great bow hunter. Not because he was born with some extra bow hunting ability. He just works really hard at it. And you can too. You really can too. You can be exceptional at whatever you want. You can be an outlier. But the irony for outliers is they're not really outliers. They're victims of circumstance and culture. I think that was my last quote, or my last note. There was an audiobook. There was a post audiobook interview with Malcolm Gladwell, and I said the irony is that outliers aren't really outliers. They are a product of time, place, and culture. And I should add to that, and really, really hard work. Hard work. They work really hard in their circumstance, and some people have to work harder than others. And there's in my head, honestly, there's a guilt associated with not having the most amount of struggle or the most amount of challenges to overcome or the least amount of opportunity. I'm given a ton of opportunity and chances to succeed and chances to be healthy and strong and capable and successful. I'm given a lot of opportunity, more opportunity than other people. So there's I feel guilty that I have the opportunity. I feel like I should work harder to get what I have. And I don't have a ton, just the bare necessities. Not even the bare necessities. I have more than the bare necessities. I have food, water, and shelter, and then I have toys and things that I like. The internet really it's not a bare necessity for survival. Anyway, some people have to work harder for survival than others. And I don't think it's right to have a guilt associated with that, but a lot of people have guilt associated with that. I have guilt associated with not having to work extra hard for what I have. But in reality, that's not, there's nothing I can do about that. My circumstances are my circumstances, and I get to choose to take initiative with the opportunity I'm given, with the chances that are presented. I get to choose to work towards my success in my capacity and to take opportunity. And the harder I push myself, the more hours I put in, the better I'll become at whatever it is I'm trying to do. And the truth is, it's the same for you. So if that message doesn't inspire you, I don't know what the fuck will. You can take control of your life wherever you're at, whether you're at the bottom of the barrel or you're a kid, you're a super spoiled kid of billionaire parents, wherever you're at in your timeline in the world, you are the only one responsible for your peace, your health, your wealth, and your wisdom. You have to take control of all of those things. Rich kids are going to be given more opportunity than others, but it's up to those rich kids to take the initiative, right? And then people born into poverty and into rough circumstances will not have near as much opportunity, but it's their initiative to go get it, to go get some. Like Jocko Willink always says, go get some. So, yeah. And then just keep trying every day to be better. That's Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I wish I had the physical copy, but I'm going to be doing a 15-minute episode on this on Here's the Point right after this. So if you like this, maybe you could share the 15-minute episode with someone that you think would like the message, but doesn't want to listen to an hour and a half of bullshit. Next week, ironically and accidentally, I got another book. The next book I'm reading is along the same lines. It's called Grit: The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. I chose this book because it was one of the it's been on my reading list for a while, and I think it's 10 hours long, and so I thought if I'm still going to be cleaning, I want to get a longer book in because I'll have more time to put a longer. Anyway, I'm like a quarter of the way through, and it's basically the same message as Outliers. But I love it. It's really motivating for me. It's inspiring, and it affirms really that you are in control of your life. Regardless of how shitty your circumstances are, you're in control of your life, and you can take control. And and just to be sensitive to some people are victims of involuntary suffering, and I mentioned that term a lot, and it comes from Viktor Frankl, or the idea at least reminds me of Viktor Frankl, who was a victim. He was a prisoner of Nazi Germany concentration camps, Auschwitz, and he still, he can't just leave a prison. He's suffering at his own expense, involuntarily. He doesn't get to choose to be in a concentration camp, but his attitude is, that's at the very core of it. He gets to choose his attitude. His book is amazing, Man's Search for Meaning. Highly recommend reading that one. You're even if you're a victim of involuntary suffering, you are still in control, at least of your attitude. You might not be able to control your success or your health or your wealth as a prisoner, but you can control your attitude. Because at the end of the day, life isn't about being the most successful or the richest or the smartest. Life is about finding meaning and finding purpose and improving your circumstance and improving other people's circumstance. And again, you can't. Some people are in prisons and can't do that, and against their will, or whatever your circumstance are. You're stuck in a toxic home life, toxic parents, toxic job. You don't have any other job lineups, but you can choose your attitude at the very least, and whatever you can do to improve your circumstance, do it. Yeah. Grit by Angela Duckworth next week. That's it. I don't need to go through my spiel, but you can check out my Instagram if you want to find the videos for other 15-minute episodes. And you can also check out my blog to find my TikToks that I made a few TikToks. All the good stuff. So the blog is cadenkellysblog.wordpress.com. And if you have any questions for me or suggestions or comments, you can message me on any socials that you find. I'm on them periodically, and I'm grateful for each of you that show up. I think I am confident if you're listening to this part right now after an hour and a half, you're here for yourself. You're here to improve yourself. And I don't have all of the wisdom. I just am learning a bunch of wisdom, and I'm trying to pass it on. So if you're here, I think you're doing what you can to improve your situation, your circumstance as well. That's what matters. Doing what you can when you can do it. Pushing yourself to be better. And that's it. Steez is here because you thought I was playing Val. That's fine. That's fine. But anyway, thanks for being here anyway. I know, JK, GG's. I'll be here next week on Monday. Happy Juneteenth. Next week is not a holiday, so we should definitely be here. And then we're in July after next week, which is exciting. The weeks are flying by. We've been doing this for over a year. Actually, let's see what my first episode was. I have something special when I haven't quite hit the 50 book line yet, because some of the earlier episodes were like part 1, part 2s of books, and I did some podcasts. But yeah, let's see. June 15th was my first episode called Monday Morning Motivation. So that was that yeah, 1 year. We this today's basically the 1 year mark. Almost got 50 books under my belt of trying to trying to improve my life and trying to help inspire you improve your life. It's all good. It's all good in this fucking hood, baby. Thanks for sticking with me if you've been here from the beginning, and if you're new, then we've got a long ways to go still. So check it out next week. Go challenge yourself. Work hard in your craft, in your shit. You can take responsibility. You are responsible for your health, your wealth, your happiness, and your peace. So do what you can to improve them, and we'll see you next week.
で読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直している